We're always on an up and down roller coaster. Some days we're high in the sky, feeling like we're winning the game of life, while others, not so much, we're low in the dirt, wondering if we could get any worse. But it's those moments we're on that continuous high, that continuous winning streak, we sometimes get ahead of ourselves, thinking that the high will last forever. This misplaced belief is what is known as the Hot Hand Fallacy. But before we go into this bias, first subscribe to this channel, like and share this video so we can continue to help you, feed you nuggets of gold on brain and behavior. So, simply put, the hot hand fallacy is a mistaken belief that we will find success in the future, whether it be immediate or in the near future, especially when we have a continuous winning streak of success in something at that time. In other words, as the name implies, we feel like we're continuously on fire, like our hand is like Midas's touch, making everything into gold, but without really considering that this might just be a stroke of chance. The fallacy overall suggests that we tend to overestimate the predictability and continuation of a hot hand or streak of successes. First coined by psychologists Thomas Gilovich, Robert Vallone, and Amos Tversky in their seminal 1985 paper, there have been several studies looking at this bias in the context of sports. One influential study was done by these psychologists where they looked at the data from professional basketball players and games. They then analyzed whether successful shots were more likely to be followed by a succession of successful shots thereafter. Based on their findings, there was no clear evidence supporting that a player's probability of hitting a shot increased after making one successful shot before. While of course there were outlier players that had consistency, overall as a whole, they found that performance was consistent with random sequences rather than a series of predicted success. Beyond basketball, this hot hand fallacy was observed in the context of gambling as well. In a paper by Croson R. and Sandali, they examined the bias in the context of coin flips, where participants were asked to predict the outcome and assess the probability of a streak occurring. The results showed that these participants believed that streaks of heads or tails were more likely to occur. The experiment showed, however, that players who won tended to demonstrate the hot hand fallacy in action, believing they were likely to win from their streaks of success, although at the end of the day, it was just a 50-50 random chance. So this hot hand fallacy doesn't just pertain to sports or gambling. We actually see this everywhere. In trading, for example, investors may fall prey to this fallacy when they experience a successful trade. And when they're on that high, they become overconfident and believe that they have a hot hand in predicting the market. However, in reality, no matter how much you may get things right, market behavior is complex and is ultimately pretty unpredictable. So with it being out of our control, this makes it difficult to precisely say what the future outcomes may be, even if we do have a streak of wins. Even with something as common as job interviews, you can see that hot hand fallacy come into play. Perhaps you have a succession of a lot of successful rounds of a job interview. I'm going to ace this next one for sure. But in reality, there is no real guarantee you can get that job because maybe many factors might come into play. Budgetary issues, perhaps they have other candidates that are just as equal part to you. Perhaps suddenly the CEO chooses not to hire somebody, right? Ultimately, the hot hand fallacy can be attributed to several factors. For one, people have a natural tendency to perceive patterns and meaningful sequences despite randomness. Humans are notoriously known for seeing patterns and symbols in the world, adding significance to certain outcomes. This is known as apophenia, also known as patternicity, which is when we see patterns in random events. There are also other cognitive biases, such as the confirmation bias and the availability heuristic, which play a part into the hot hand fallacy. With a confirmation bias, we recall information that supports or confirms our initial thought. And the availability heuristic makes us assess quick but sometimes incorrect assessments, relying on information that is readily available. Then there is the added illusion of control, a topic we talk about in another video. We all have a natural tendency to believe we have more control over random events than they actually do. So as a result, we battle uncertainty in the world and try to think that this is all within our control. It's worth noting this fallacy because after all, it can influence how we make decisions. By falling prey to this bias, we end up having unrealistic expectations of success, which can end up leading to bigger disappointments and frustration, when such predicted success does not come into fruition. In addition to this, the fallacy can lead to biased judgments of performance and skills, making us get comfortable with where we are instead of working harder to maintain that streak of success. We think, well, I'll succeed regardless because look at how well I've been doing up till now, and then we end up getting comfortable. To counter the hot hand fallacy, it is crucial to cultivate a rational and evidence-based mindset. First off, it's important to analyze everything objectively. Use objective data, statistical analysis, sound reasoning to make the decisions rather than being influenced by perceived trends. We may think a winning streak is due to our ability, which maybe to some part it is, but if the numbers aren't showing it, it could just be a lucky streak and nothing else. And lastly, when we are on a streak of some sort, try to keep an accurate record of it to avoid falling victim to an illusion of some sorts. In the end, it's okay to fail, and we all do. Try not to focus on that and get obsessed over these winning streaks, but focus on continuous improvement regardless of the results. That way, whether you succeed or whether you fail, you're still consistent with what you do, and you will inevitably become and shape into somebody that will get successful. The hot hand fallacy is definitely something that can make us rely more on random chance than actual effort. Streaks of success will happen in life, but it's important not to get clouded by this and keep moving forward with our effort to be and do better. By embracing a more rational approach to success, we can make much more informed judgments, and we can free ourselves from an illusion of random chance. If you've liked this video, make sure to look at the video on the left where we talk about the halo effect, which affects our perception and judgments. And then on the right, we have a whole playlist of other cognitive biases that you can dive deep into. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so we can continue to help you mind the golden mind.